Chase me, boy. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to run through how to build an all-wheel drive B series. So I'm going to run through everything from front to back. So we're going to start with the gearbox, go all the way to the back, and hopefully by the end of it you'll be able to figure out how to build one yourself. We do also have a blog on the website as well, where I've tried to include every single part and the entire breakdown of everything we've done start to finish, so you can go read that if you want. I'll link it in the description, and let's go. First thing, starting the engine bay, you are going to need engine mounts. So we've gone with the Hasport B-all drive engine mounts. I can't remember the exact part number, but they are pretty much exactly the same as the front wheel drive ones, apart from the rear bracket is different, and I think this bracket on the gearbox side is different as well. So you cannot use front wheel drive engine mounts, you have to use the all-wheel drive ones. Gearbox, we use the SXMB, I think it's called, the B20 CRV gearbox, but we had to swap out loads of different things in it. So I'll link the video above here as well, because it might be quite useful if you're doing this as well. The B20 gearbox has really bad ratios in it, especially for turbo. The original CRV box only went up to like 6.7k, 6.7 thousand RPMs around there somewhere. So like for anything like this, the rest of 9k is no good. We had the Speed Factory front wheel drive to all wheel drive conversion kit in there, which strengthens the first and second shifter fork, and it's got shims to allow you to like swap the gear sets over. So first to fourth gear in here is S9B, fifth gear is CRV, and I can't remember what it tops out at. I think it's like 187 or something. Synchros, we used the Synchrotech carbon synchro kit. So that would be the whole kit, including bearings. For diff, we used the WaveTrack all-wheel drive diff. So it's the B all-wheel drive one they did, because at the time, nobody else like M Factory actually made one. There is another way you can do it, a cheaper way of a H22 diff, but you need to get, I think it's the Accord Type R, like the 2001 or something, but you need to machine parts of it out and shim it, and we just didn't really want to mess around with it, to be honest. So we just went directly bolting with a WaveTrack, and that was absolutely fine. Gears, we left the gears absolutely stock because we're only running like 500 wheel. We didn't need any upgraded gears or anything else with it, so that was absolutely fine. In the blog that I'll link in the description, we've got basically everything and how to do the whole thing. So the input shaft in this box we used from the S9B, counter shaft we used from the all-wheel drive box, and then we just built the gears up from there. All the shift forks are completely stock. Synchro, we left the fifth synchro as CRV because I think the front wheel drive fifth gear synchro is like a different diameter, so kept that brass. All the others are carbon. That is it for the gearbox. Let's move on to the next bit. So the next thing, shifter cables and shifter. So these are K-tuned B-all drive cables because they have the conversion kit that sits over there as well, and everything literally bolts in. So that went all the way through. For the firewall, we drilled holes over the other side. Let's go around the side. Down here, we ended up drilling holes through the firewall and adding like a rubber grommet in. That is not the prettiest thing, and we are going to fix it at some point. We actually went a little bit too far over because the last time we had it fitted, we went through the heater holes because we didn't have a heater. Yeah, well, basically the cables were too long, so we were trying to go further over this way, and we went a little bit too far, so we had to cut a bit further over. So we are going to make a plate for that, but at the minute it's just the rubber in there just to stop the cables rubbing. Also, just to note, cables, you have to remove the shift linkage, the front wheel drive one, and all of that assembly. We still got ours on the boot, so yeah, just remove that. Next thing is shifter, if our lovely Jack will come around this way. Unfortunately on the ramp it's very difficult to get a good angle of this, but hopefully Jack can do some magic with zooming and figure it out. The shifter, we use the Hybrid Racing CL7 shifter. Basically the B-all drive cables on the shifter side are designed for a CL7 shifter, so we went with a hybrid one because we're a dealer for hybrid anyway. It was just easy, and I really like the shifters, so we went with the red CL7 shifter with the CL7 base plate. It all works perfectly, it kind of bolts in. We had it on the coupe and it was great, so yeah, we've gone with that on that one. That is everything from the engine bay. Subframe and everything was just stock EK. Let's go to underneath the car. Have our lunch while we're waiting for this. Talked about the gearbox. The transfer case is just a stock transfer case from the B20. Not really a lot to say about the transfer case, to be honest. At some point, I know the stock transfer cases, because they're cast, they're quite weak, so we're probably going to have to go with a billet one. But as of right now, just to get the car running, we're going to leave it as it is and kind of hope it causes us no problems. The next part is the prop. So prop, we had two props. We had the original CRV B20 prop, which was nowhere near the right length or anything, and I can't remember if it had a viscous or not. I don't think it did. No, it didn't have viscous because it's got clutch packs in the rear. So what we did with this is got a Freelander prop, CRV prop. We got the ends cut off of them to match the bolt pattern here. So to match the 4 bolts in here, we had the ends on either end of the CRV prop, and then we had all the UJs upgraded. They put a slip joint in for us as well, and they powder coated it at the same time. Pretty quick, it was about a week. We sent both props away, a week it came back to us, which was good. So we've got upgraded joints all the way around, and we have a viscous in the middle as well. How it basically works is when the front starts slipping, the fluid in here will heat up, and then it will transfer power to the rear, which is much, much better for launching. So that was kind of the original plan on that one, is if we can just, you know, save the transmission and save the rear diff from braking, then we'll get more time out of the car. So yeah, viscous in here. For the bearings, we just got stock Freelander bearings because they were all okay, so we didn't bother changing those. Welded in a brace here to actually mount everything. I do need to clean this up and kind of cut everything and make it a bit prettier, but just for the time being, just to mount it, it's just on here. I think that is it for the prop up to here. On the back, we obviously did the same thing with the ends for the rear diff. Again, upgraded joints here. The end was chopped and welded from the prop guys just to make the bolt pattern match again. Rear diff, I'll put parts of our old video in here, because for the rear diff we ended up taking out the clutch packs and we put, I think it was S1 built locking plates in before they made like the thick block. So the whole video for that I'll show now, and you can have a look through that. I'll probably just put it over as I'm talking just so you can see. For fluid, I think we just use normal 75/90 in the rear, if I remember rightly. Drive shafts, we ended up using Insane shafts because for the price they were quite good. Although I think because of how the diff's mounted, we had to use, I think we used 2 left CRV shafts in here. Yeah, I think it was 2 lefts that we had to use just to make everything sit correctly. Actually, quickly going back to here, we did have to knock a little bit of this tunnel out because the prop wasn't straight and we weren't massively happy with it. So we ended up kind of knocking this in a bit here for the viscous. So we just knocked a little bit of this out just to get the viscous a little bit further this way. Back to rear diff. So rear shafts, we used 2 left CRVs because of how they fit. They were both the right length, and we did use the original all drive kit, but one of them was ridiculously long and it just wasn't working, so we ended up using 2 lefts. Lower control arms are just stock hard race arms for an EK, nothing really crazy about those. The rear trailing arms here are stock EK rear trailing arms, but they've had the middle drilled out and they've got the S1 built plates in there and the S1 built strengthening bracket on the back. Handbrake cables as well. Handbrake were just normal rear disc EK handbrake cables. They didn't need to be anything ridiculous either. Because we were converted to rear disc on the back, we just swapped the cables out from drum to disc. Shock brackets, we used S1 built shock brackets. They just move the suspension up. Normally it would be twisted around the other way and those forks will kind of sit over there, but this moves it across so you can get the drive shafts in. Just gives you a bit more clearance on it. So we use those. They are nice. We had those on before. Rear diff brace. Oh wow, chassis wise, we had to chop this out. We are going to go back through this and kind of make it a bit prettier in the future, but just for the time being, we've just cut that out because it gives you a bit more room up here for the rear diff. So we had to notch that a little bit, but again, this strengthens it anyway, so it isn't going to be ridiculously weak or anything on the rear. The innovative rear brace, that bolted up pretty much directly, bolts there to the rear diff and just holds everything central. There is a plate up here where we had to weld in brackets for the top mount. That'll sit correctly, everything's bolted in there. I think that is pretty much it. We changed a couple of the other arms, like rear toe arms up there. We're going to be doing brake lines at some point, probably in the next couple of weeks, so that's why the brake lines are cut and just clamped at the minute. Fuel lines we had to remove as well because we're going to have to run a fuel cell in the boot. There is a company in America that do make a fuel cell that will like sit up here if you didn't want to put a fuel cell in the boot. So there's like they make a welded aluminium tank that sort of sits in here perfectly. I think it's like FCS or someone, but that's another option if you want to do that. Exhaust is the next problem. So exhaust is going to be an absolute nightmare. Obviously all the 4-drive stuff is pretty much bolt on. This is going to have to be complete custom front to rear because normally the exhaust would just run straight down through this tunnel. Now we have a prop in the way, we can't. So for the exhaust, we're going to have to run from the turbo down down here to the original point, and then where the transfer case is, we're going to have to go across here. So we'll go down here, across here. These brake lines are going to be moved over to the other side. So Hell are going to sort us out with some braided ones from the, I think it's from the prop valve all the way back, split to the rear calipers. So these are moving. We're going to go down here, oval this to get it as tight to the chassis as we can. Oval all the way down here. When we get to here, we're going to put a silencer in. These rear cables we're going to move up, the rear handbrake cables. Then up here, we'll probably have some sort of silencer here, across here, and then through to the back box up here somewhere. I mean, it's probably as close to OEM as we can get. It's not really going to be ideal, and it's going to have to be fully custom, but at least we get full exhaust. As a road car, we kind of need it. So that is the exhaust. And the last thing, I guess, is Screamer. It's not really all drive related, but you can see a big hole in the bonnet up there. So we are going to teardrop out the top of that. Full drive front to finish. I don't think I've missed anything, but if I have, let me know in the comments and I'll kind of help from there. Like I said before, we are doing a blog on it as well, so I will have everything in the blog, or as much as I possibly can, and yeah, hopefully you should be able to build one start to finish. I'll put as many links in as I can as well. For example, like all the stuff on the rear, I'll link you to all the different websites we bought everything from, and yeah, hopefully you can build your own. Any questions, leave it in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one. Yeah.